I mean, a big part of this show is the fact that I want to show that it's not a big production, right?
Yeah,
Like
of course.
not have it done in a commercial kitchen, not have things all prepared ahead of time, show real time, not edit the mistakes out,
Yeah.
just show how simple. Um, Tell us a little bit about who you are and why you picked this recipe.
I mean, as far as who I am, I I'm not really sure what to say about myself.
Okay, we'll just go into the recipe then.
Uh,
How about your
the
name?
recipe, huh?
How
Oh, your
about your
name.
name?
Oh, my name's Tabitha. Um, actually, I've I've been involved in like the stuff with the Fine and Body wenches a lot lately, which has nothing to do with cooking, but some performance stuff, which has actually been a lot of fun. But I live in a very small space. It's a studio apartment. I don't even have like a normal kitchen in my space. I use just an electric skillet for just about everything, and if I'm not using that, I'm using a slow cooker. So most of the recipes that I use are ones that are simple and easy to make and things that I can actually utilize in this. And this candied nut recipe that we're doing today is one that is actually easy to use in this kind of space, but it's also one that you can easily do on a stovetop. And it doesn't take a lot of ingredients. So when you're kind of short on some things, it's easy to throw together. And it also makes really good gifts for like the holidays and stuff.
Well, because it's
So
considered candy nuts are considered extremely exotic
yeah,
and
and they're
really
very tasty,
hard to make.
but they really aren't. This one is so simple. As long as you don't burn the sugar, you're good. And, as long as you're paying attention, you're good. And we're gonna just do the basic version of it today, but you can also adjust it and change the vanilla extract out for other flavors of extract. And you can add citrus peel or other things that you might want. You
Even
can get
citrus
fancy.
peel. I think
Huh?
I have
Yeah, like
that we
you could
on a
use
past
lemon
cooking
peel,
show.
orange
We
peel.
made some citrus peel so that basically don't waste your orange, like don't throw away your orange peels, your lemon peels.
Oh gosh, see, one of my favorite things to do with citrus peel is actually candy the citrus peel, but that's a
Uh-huh.
whole conversation. But
Yeah.
oh, so
um,
good.
so before we get into the recipe, I always have this typical questions. Are there like substitutes? So um obviously you could use different kinds of nuts, but
Yes.
standard, I mean, it's what's readily available in your area.
Yeah.
But I mean, the holiday in our area, the holiday nuts are either pecan or walnuts because it is a short season. So they are
Yes.
considered exotic for the rest of the year because they're not readily available.
Yeah. And today, because I didn't have quite enough walnuts, I'm actually using a combination of walnuts and pecans, just to be clear. Um, so I'm actually going to be using a combination of two nuts just in this today, but you can actually use any nut you actually want to candy. If you really wanted to, you could even use peanuts. It's just, super, super simple and easy. You can actually substitute walnuts and pecans are actually pretty traditional. If you wanted, you could do hazelnuts, you could do peanuts, you could do macadamia nuts. You could use just about anything that you wanted to.
And when I went to grab my vanilla, I thought, what other like flavors? And I have a little bit of this orange blossom water from when we did like a Middle Eastern cooking show. I thought that might, squeeze some orange on it.
Hmm.
Otherwise, I thought really wild, maybe some rum flavor. I don't know. I'm just and
So as
maple
oh, I
flavor.
apologize. As far as the extracts go, you can actually use just about any extract you want. I'm gonna use just basic vanilla today. Um, but I've used orange extract before in combination with the cinnamon, and it works really, really well. Um, I've used banana and it has been incredible. But I actually left the cinnamon out of the recipe for that at some
I've kind
point.
of went on a kick with cinnamon of not using it because I've come
Yeah,
across a decent amount of people who are allergic to cinnamon.
yes,
And so I've
absolutely.
started using it less. And yes, I really like cinnamon because it's so little that
Hmm.
it, I love spices that, well, affordability, right? You buy a spice and it can stretch and stretch and stretch and stretch. So that's why I like cinnamon. Um, so it's basically really what? Three ingredients: sugar, nuts, and vanilla or your flavor.
Uh, Nuts, brown sugar, cinnamon, salt, your extract, and water or juice. And I was actually going to touch on that because you said you have that orange blossom water. So you
Ooh,
could actually use that in place of the water that is in the recipe, and that would actually work really, really well.
okay.
And this is going back on the substitutions. I plan on doing a little bit of experimentation at some point and doing a rose version of these candied nuts and using a rose tea for the water and actually candying them with some rose petals in there with just some pecans and then throwing some orange peel in there. I haven't
Now
actually
that
gotten to
sounds exotic, but again,
yes, it's
nothing you mentioned there really is that complicated. It's
no,
just
once it
you
comes
don't make it.
together. Yeah. But it'd be really, really lovely with tea or, even like chopped up on top of sweets or something like that. So, you know. And then the optional part is you can use orange zest or lemon zest in the nuts if you want. You don't have to. So that's kind of, up in the air. Especially if you're using orange extract, I would suggest using lemon peel or orange peel. Um, or if you're using something that flavor works well with, I would say go ahead and add the citrus peel to it. So,
Now
but
talk about another substitute. I've learned this from regulars at the cooking show. If you don't have brown sugar,
mhm,
regular sugar and a little bit of molasses mixed together is brown sugar.
yes, absolutely.
And so if you're like me and don't want to buy multiple things, I buy regular sugar and then I just basically have, this right here. I bought, I don't know, 7 years ago maybe. It's just like
Oh, goodness.
this is a gallon of molasses.
Oh yeah, it sticks around for a while.
So, yeah, and whenever I want some brown sugar, I just mix a little. I I'll water it down a little bit because molasses is really really thick. Um, if you do it in a food processor, you can pour the molasses directly in the food processor. But when I'm doing it by hand, I'll add a little bit of water to thin the molasses before I mix it. So, all
Makes
right,
sense.
let's get cooking, I guess.
Okay, so you're gonna need 2 cups of nuts. This is actually makes a fairly small batch. And while I actually have 2 cups of nuts here, we're gonna measure them out anyway. So, um, goodness. But it's just 2 cups of whatever nuts you want to use. This is a mixture of pecans and walnuts. So, and as far as your heat, you're going to actually want this on about medium heat. For mine, I set it at about 350. That way it's not so high that it burns the sugar, which is a, issue. So measure out your nuts, and you're actually going to want 6 tablespoons of brown sugar. And you're going to want to combine the coating for everything before you put it in the skillet to actually make sure that it's actually mixed, pardon me, mixed well before you actually throw everything together. So
I'm good. I'll probably just go hog wild and just use this whole bag of nuts. Let's see. Now I could have bought. They had local pecans that were cracked but still had the shells on them, and they were like
Oh
a
yeah.
third of the price. And so, if I really wanted to show realistic cooking, we could have shelled them first. So this will be a double batch what you're making. The 1
Oh yeah.
pound was about 4 cups.
Yeah. And this is an easy recipe to double if you need to. Me, I'm working in a small space, so the smaller recipe actually works.
Oh, so if I double it, will it not be very good in my just regular pan?
Oh, it'll actually be just fine as long as you're using a big enough skillet.
Got it. Okay. How much sugar did you say?
6 tablespoons.
All right.
So for you, if you're doubling it, you're wanting 12.
Yeah.
All right.
3. Oh man, this brown sugar that I made is so much more poignant, I feel, than the one you buy at the store. It smells so much more like molasses.
Oh, absolutely. And see, I'm using dark brown sugar myself, but I imagine that is like so much more fragrant.
So you probably could just not put another flavor in because you have the flavor of the brown sugar. I mean,
Oh gosh, yeah, you could. You could keep it super, super simple and like leave just about everything else out. Though you'd want the salt just to have that element there to cut through the
okay.
sweetness.
I forgot. Or how much salt?
Yeah. As far as the salt, you want a half a teaspoon of salt. And I'm
This is
using
how
regular.
thrifty I am. This,
Oh yeah.
I mean, this was white, but it's right next to the stove. But the salt,
Oh gosh, yes.
I mean, how long I've had that salt, I don't know. I don't tend to cook with much salt myself.
I don't really either. I've probably had this container for 2 years myself. So,
Which is
and
funny because I don't know, what is a thing of salt, like 50 cents? I mean,
yeah, it's not very expensive.
but still, I mean, use what you have. It's not going bad. That's why I
Nope.
started buying whole spice, like,
Yeah.
buying cinnamon sticks instead of cinnamon powder because it absolutely
Yeah.
seems to last forever.
Oh gosh, yes.
All right, so I've got the brown sugar, the nuts, and the salt mixed together.
Okay, and then you want 1.5 teaspoon of cinnamon.
All right.
If you're using cinnamon, you don't actually have to use the cinnamon if there are allergy concerns or if it is something that one just wishes to skip, but it does add a nice spice to it. And we're just kind of going with the basic recipe here today.
Yeah. I mean, this is a pound of nuts, but I can, so I'll make what I like.
Can you repeat how much salt?
It's a half teaspoon.
And does it matter what kind, whether it's like iodized table salt or kosher?
I am actually just using iodized table salt. You can get fancy with your salt, but it's not super necessary.
Oh.
I mean, I wouldn't use anything that has like a sulfurous flavor to it, like black salt, but you can use just iodized table salt. It'll be just fine.
I was reaching for the black salt.
But
That's
it'll
my
turn out
go-to salt because it's more
eggy.
minerals than salt, and so it's good for my high blood pressure.
I mean, sure, but it's gonna turn out like eggs.
Yeah, you don't want. sulfurous. Actually,
No.
I'm really wanting to put the rum flavor in instead of vanilla.
Oh, go for it. See, that
Yep.
would be nice.
Just like,
And this is such a forgiving recipe in that, regard, because you can actually exchange the extracts for whatever flavor you want. So you kind of just make your own flavor of, candy there.
all right, so how much liquid do you think I put in?
As far as the vanilla, I usually use 1 tablespoon of vanilla. Oh, goodness. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm one of those snobs where I like to use real vanilla, not the fake vanilla. Some people, it's fine to use the imitation extract. It's fine. It's okay. Use what you got. That's the best part of cooking, using what you have, utilize it. But I prefer
Yeah, I
the
always said I go from
vanilla.
the pure stuff. I think one time actually made vanilla from vanilla bean,
Oh, nice. Yes.
but and then you said we're gonna need some water.
Yes. And that is 1.5 tablespoons of water.
Oh, so not much.
No.
So, but you think I can use this orange blossom water?
Yes, absolutely.
Which is funny. I did the recipe, but with the exception of like adding this to drinking water, I haven't really used it. So this is a fun chance to.
Oh gosh, yeah. Now
Oh,
the
oh,
experiment
my
batch
kitchen
that I
smells
want.
like Christmas.
Huh?
My kitchen smells like Christmas.
Oh yeah. Oh, it will. But
Oh,
the
we haven't even
experimental.
started toasting it. You're right.
Oh gosh. The experimental batch that I actually want to do with the rose, I'm going to use tea and in place of the water for that. And it's such a forgiving recipe because you can actually do that with this recipe. And as long as it's just flavors that work well with each other,
Right.
it usually just turns out fine.
I mean, that's interesting because we are putting some strong flavors, but because they complement each other. I mean,
Yeah.
molasses is a strong flavor, vanilla is a strong flavor, orange
Oh
is a
gosh.
strong flavor, but if you do it right, they complement each other. So we're trying
Absolutely.
to coat all this really well.
Yes.
It's interesting, just that little bit of liquid is making it so that it's all sticking to the nuts now. I was
Yeah,
thinking we
it
need a lot
definitely
more
helps.
liquid than that, but
Oh, so you're putting the nuts together with the spices. You're not mixing this first and then adding the nuts?
It's okay if you actually just mix the topping, the coating first, and then throw the nuts in, as long as you actually just coat it all and then put it in your pan. It's fine. It's not that serious. It's pretty forgiving.
I
So
thought it was.
basically,
It really is.
the liquids are a tablespoon and a half of water, a tablespoon of vanilla, and that's all the liquid.
That's it. It doesn't
That smells
really need
good.
anything more than that.
Yeah, I put the nuts in first and then poured the stuff on top. I thought that was, well, I didn't do it on purpose, but when I think about it now, it's easier to mix it if it was on the top as it filters down than on the bottom bringing it up. So I, by mistake, I feel did it a better order.
Oh, sure.
Look at this. I mean, it's even just with that little bit of liquid, I don't see any powder at all. It's just all on the nuts.
Perfect.
I thought we need a lot more liquid than that.
It doesn't
No,
really
not at
feel
all.
like the sugar is dissolving, but do you keep stirring until it feels creamy?
No, it's going to still be a little bit grainy. because the sugar is actually going to caramelize on the nuts once we actually get it in the skillet.
Oh, so Lulu, you're mixing everything before you put the nuts in, right?
Yeah, I was watching her
Oh, okay.
because yeah, you know me. I'm a rule follower.
So I broke the rules and I feel like I did it better than you guys. I don't know.
That's okay.
But yeah, if you wanted it
But
all
again,
well mixed, now that I think about it though, I'm gonna have some nuts that'll taste different this way. Because when I
You're
drizzled,
gonna have one with a ton of salt on it.
right, there's a very possibility, right? Now that I think about it, it was easier to mix, but I don't think it's the flavors evenly distributed. Okay, so you guys have a better way. There's no reason I can't taste this now. Let's see.
I mean, it's going to taste a little bit different now than it will, finished. The hard part is once you've candied it, waiting for it to cool down to actually taste it.
So I've had candy nuts before, just like this is like there's like no flavor almost at all.
Yeah.
It's like so until it caramelizes and
and gets the crust. Yeah.
Now, do you have to do it in a skillet? Could I cover the nuts and put them on parchment paper and roast them in the oven?
This one specifically is for a skillet. So there are recipes that you could do that in an oven, and I suppose you could probably put these in an oven for like 350 and like kind of keep an eye on them and kind of toss them a bit and make sure that they just don't burn.
Right.
I wouldn't be able to tell you what time they needed though, because I've always done it this way.
Okay.
So
I
I'm
like
just
the
worried
oven
about-
for making big batches of stuff once I learn exactly what it's good for. But
yeah,
I also don't like the oven because you can't really look at stuff. I like
yeah, and it's really
being
good for the
involved in
candy
my
nut
food.
recipes that has egg whites in it, where you actually have to use the oven to like dry and crisp everything.
I am on electric old stove, and so the heating elements are kind of finicky, and I am more worried about it burning kind of inconsistently on the bottom of. And I'm using a cast iron skillet, and I'm just worried about everything sticking to the skillet and not to the nuts. But
Well, Lulu, you wanted to experiment and do half and half?
no, I want to do it her way first, and then I'll experiment.
You could always try adding just a tiny bit of oil and rubbing on the inside to the cast iron to see if that helps keep it from sticking. I'm not
Okay.
using cast iron, so I don't know, but in theory, it might keep the sugar from sticking as bad.
I think Lulu's done a really good job of seasoning her pan so stuff doesn't
Yeah.
stick.
Yeah, they still do. So you would literally, you're not using stainless steel. Yours is a non-stick coating.
Yeah.
I don't own a pan like that. I need to get one. Because then you don't need any oil.
Well, we'll see. I have stainless
Yeah.
steel, so we'll see.
Okay, so we're doing cast iron, stainless steel, and then
Then an electric skillet. So all right, is everybody all mixed up?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh,
And by mixed up, we are hopefully not confused.
Oh, our food is mixed up.
Okay, wonderful.
Mine is.
All right, so I'm putting the nuts in and I'm putting the coating in to actually mix directly in the skillet. So
Okay, so you didn't mix the nuts and the coating separately. You're just doing it in the skillet.
I am in a tiny apartment with very, very few dishes. Okay.
Okay,
So
you are utilizing the pan as a bowl.
Yes, I am.
Now you already have the pan on while you're doing that.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes it easier because as the sugar caramelizes, it coats it even better.
So my bowl's big enough. I'm gonna coat my nuts first in the bowl.
When I
Don't admit
can
that about your nuts.
First, I do.
What's that?
How nuts?
Whenever
I'm steaming a little bit.
But keeping them moving is actually really important. And this is the part where it really doesn't take long. You're just kind of waiting for it to start caramelizing and toasting.
Let's see, what temperature is that?
So I've got my pan on about 350, about medium.
But you said you think it's about 300?
It's about 350. Roughly medium is what the setting on this is.
Okay. Yeah, on mine, let's see, 350 is, oops. It's so caramelized already.
Oh yes, it goes super fast. It's usually anywhere between like 2 to 5 minutes, depending on how much you've got in your pan. Sometimes like elevation and just the moisture in the air can actually affect it a
But
little
definitely
bit, but
stir it nonstop. I feel like I waited for like 15
yeah,
seconds and it was already starting
keep
to
it
thick.
moving. Yes, definitely keep it moving. And you know it's done whenever you see it caramelizing and sticking, and you will start smelling the nuts smell nutty. So your
Right.
nose
I
really
think
tells you when it's finished.
mine's done already. Let's see.
I think my skillet's too hot.
Do you mind taking a little bit longer because it's a fuzzy electric skillet, so.
Yeah, I have electric, but mine's induction. And so I used to
Yeah.
only cook on gas. Literally underneath this board here is my gas stove. And you can see
Oh,
there's the
wow.
gas nozzle. I still have an oven
Yeah.
that's gas, but I have a 2-burner induction. And of course, well, in my case, it's solar powered. So this is
Oh, nice.
free energy.
Heck yeah.
But I'm surprised I didn't switch over. I just always hated electric cooking whenever I had it because it was
Oh, it's
just like
frustrating.
it would take so long to heat up and then it would be too hot. Unless you knew
Yes.
exactly the number of that device, like a 5 is 300 degrees, a 7 is 400 degrees. You don't,
Yes.
but
Oh,
So
see,
that's what
ideally prefer gas, but
that's what
well,
just
all right.
happened to me. My
if you
my
like gas, you'll love induction because it's electric, but it's actually fast, more responsive than gas.
So, or exactly what you said happened when I put mine in. It just sounded like it was really frying and sautéing really hard. So I
Yep.
had to pull the cast iron off. Now I'm starting with frozen nuts because I keep my nuts in the freezer. So I think it cooled down rather quickly. And now I'm going to move it back. Can you guys see what it looks like?
No? Oh, yeah. Mine, I definitely burned some of that sugar. I've got a spot over here on the back that I didn't stir good enough. Oh, here. Can you see? Like, because I was using this burner and it was too far to reach. And apparently I wasn't stirring in this section of the pan. And
Oh,
so
man.
it'll be really fun to clean that because it's got this black.
Oh, absolutely.
But I'm trying to think, what could I do? Oh, I'll add water,
Mhm.
bring it to a boil, and make some oatmeal in that. So
There
I'm
you
not even wasting that burnt sugar.
Okay, so I have mine out of the pan at this point, and they turned out like they usually do. So
So how
um
long do I have to wait? Because I really want to reach over and bite one, but I know they're
I
super
mean,
hot.
they exactly, they're super hot, so you're gonna burn your face off if you try to eat them. Usually it takes about 15-20 minutes to fully cool. Give it about 5 minutes before you actually taste test them, because you want that sugar to not be absolutely molten in your mouth. That's dangerous. Hot sugar is super dangerous. Um, but after about 5 minutes, it should be cool enough that it's not actually a hazard. And
Yeah, I
you
think I'll
also,
wait longer than that because not actually is not.
well, I don't know.
I have burnt my mouth enough times
Yeah.
on sugar.
Yes. I've
Now,
got mine spread thin.
how do you know when it's done?
You will start smelling the nuts and you can see that it's caramelized. They look pretty caramelized to me. It looks like most of your liquid has actually turned into caramel. Um,
You want the
so I would
liquid to
take,
disappear, and
yeah, I would
Smell the
go ahead.
nuts. Maybe I should have let them come to room temperature because, like I said, they were frozen. Lesson learned: don't use frozen nuts.
all right. I guess that's it. We just have
Yeah,
to
that's actually it. So mine is
wait.
no longer so hot that they cannot be tried. I've spread mine pretty thin.
So
They're still
don't
hot enough that they have not
don't
set up fully.
don't even trust tossing one until it's cool.
No.
Because I've done that in the past where I was like, oh, it's cool, and then you bite into it, and no, it wasn't cool. So, um, thank you so much.
Oh gosh, yes.
I love the simplicity and the variability of this.
The
And
speed.
then, like you said, if you get little teeny plastic bags that are clear
Mm-hmm.
and you can give them as presents and they consider it extremely exotic.
Oh gosh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to get extra fancy with them, you could even take it a little bit further and drizzle them with chocolate and things like that. So,
Oh, yeah.
that's going above and beyond. And it does a little bit of futzing with it to like get the caramelization just right. And everyone's stovetop is a little bit different. And there are ways to actually do it in the oven, though I cannot actually tell you how to do this recipe in the oven, unfortunately, because I'm used to just doing it in a skillet or my electric skillet. Because I am cooking in a very limited space. So I really like this recipe specifically because I have such a limited space. So
Now I remember us being, we grew up pretty poor and we would dehydrate apples and then basically right about now when the nuts are cooling, um, chopped up dehydrated apples and we put like 75% apples and
oh
mix it
yeah.
in there
Oh,
because
that would be
nuts are
wonderful.
very expensive. And
Yeah.
so apples are not. And so that would be one thing. Or raisins, we'd throw them in there. The raisins,
Absolutely.
um, if they're the big ones, sometimes we'd actually, you know, put them in with the nuts, but it's much better, I feel, adding any of the dried stuff after you've toasted the nuts. Just give it a mix.
Yeah.
A way to stretch out the cost and more exotify it. Oh, it's much more complicated then.
Oh gosh. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
And
good deal.
it's a very impressive but simple little treat. So,
Yeah.
but it really doesn't take too long.
Any final questions, anybody?
They're all glummed together. I'm trying to break them apart before they cool, so they're more like individual pieces. Does that mean
once
I
they
had too
actually
much?
cool,
Yeah.
once they actually cool, you'll actually be able to break them apart a little bit easier because they'll be hard at that point.
Oh,
So
okay.
it kind of cools a little bit like brittle.
Okay. I did end up pouring it on the bake pan with parchment paper.
Oh gosh, yes, that's definitely a necessity. I didn't have the parchment paper, and it's not exactly a bake pan, but it's close. That's what I do with mine. I spread it as thin as possible to actually get the maximum flat surface.
And
All
I
right.
did the two kinds of nuts. I did the pecans because I had just like 3/4 of a cup of walnuts and I wanted to use them up.
Oh gosh, yes.
And you can
It's
tell the difference, you know, so I'll know when I eat them what I prefer.
That's true. Just like, oh, I should have done that. I should have done an assortment of nuts and see which nut I like better.
Yeah, I didn't think about it because I had almonds and sunflower seeds, and I only have roasted nuts already, so I wouldn't want to re-roast them, and they're
Ooh.
already salted.
Lulu, speaking of seeds, I recently had a Rice Krispie treat that had like toasted pumpkin seeds and chia seeds, and it was like had seeds in it. I'm making Rice Krispies. We're gonna have to
Was
try
it
that
good? Was it tasty?
future cooking show. Yeah, it was absolutely, it just looked like a standard Rice Krispie, except it had like, some pumpkin seeds, some chia seeds, and I forget another seed in it that just gave it
Poppy
texture
seeds
and a
would be
little nice.
fun. Sesame
That
seeds
sounds
would be
delicious.
good. Oh,
Um,
that's brilliant.
all right.
Yeah.
Any final words? I'll wrap up the recording and we can keep chatting. Thank you so much.
Thank
Oh
you.
yeah.